This is King Trap, back at it again. Today we're looking at a video played by my father and an opponent that was rated almost 300 points higher than him. My father was rated 1510 and his opponent was rated in the 1800s, and so they were matched against each other in a lichess tournament, and today I'm going to be going over how my father was able to beat him. If you're new here to this channel, subscribe and turn on notifications because I create informative chess content to help better your play and increase your chess understanding. So with that, let's get started. To start the game, we have e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop c4, and h6. This is classic quiet game, putting a lot of pressure on this weak f7 square, and so a6 is played by black to prevent this knight from jumping to this powerful g5 square. We have knight to c3, d6 solidifying in the middle, d3, and black pushes f5, contesting the center that white has built up. We have captures, a poor move by white because this allows black to develop with tempo. Bishop to d2, knight to f6, just continuing in development. Queen e2, bishop e7, long castles at a6. So at this point of the game, white is castled and black is not. So no pieces have really been taken from either side. So it's not decisive who has a clear advantage here. And then white plays knight to d5, an excellent move, as it puts a lot of pressure on black, especially in a blitz game. He's basically asking him, what do you want to do? Do you want to trade here and give me this this nice bishop completely dominating this file? What do you want to do? And black decides to play e6, and this is a terrible blunder. And if you want to stop the video right now and find out why, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, now that you're back, the reason this is a terrible blunder is because knight captures knight is a threat, putting the king in check. And then whichever way you capture back, white is picking up your light squared bishop for free, as it is an undefended piece. But, like I said, this is an 1800 player. He misses this idea, and he captures the bishop instead. Probably just thinking, you know, I'm going to eliminate the bishop pair. But now this is no longer as good, because after the queen captures back, the light squared bishop is defended. So black narrowly escapes what would have been a game-deciding blunder, as he would have been down an entire piece to a stronger opponent. So white continues d4. We have castles by black. This is an interesting decision. In talking with my father and going over this game, I said, why didn't you capture a2 here, putting a lot of pressure on the king, forcing the bishop to come out and make breathing room for the king. And he said, I knew I was playing a stronger opponent, and so I just wanted to play solidly. I wanted to consolidate, make sure my king got to safety, and not allow him to break open the center while my king's still in the middle of the board. So the game continues castles, b3, blocking the a2 pawn from being captured. We have e4, knight to h4, knight takes d4, queen to e3 as the queen was being pressured by the knight, knight to f5, captures, and bishop to c3. So white is down a pawn at this point, and black has a better position up until this point. So d5 is played, just consolidating in the middle. We have rook h to f1, c6, again solidifying in the middle, f3, challenging black's strong e4 pawn, and rook to a e8. And then white decides to kick the rook here on the f file. So we have rook to f7, and then we're going to have a series of exchanges here in the middle. F takes e4, queen takes e4, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and then h3 at the end of it all. And this is a blunder by white, and something that you should keep in mind, that even though you're playing an opponent who's stronger than you rating wise, they're still human. This is a terrible blunder because it hangs the dark squared bishop, which my dad saw and he took advantage of. So now you may be thinking, oh, well, this is a one game. But how many times have you been playing a game where you're up in material only to lose at the very end of the game, either to time or to a blunder that you make by yourself? And so I think the key here in this situation is to continue playing solidly. Make simple moves. Don't try and get fancy. Don't start sacrificing pieces because you're up. Just play to consolidate. And you'll see that's exactly what black does here. So we have a3, kicking the rook, rook to e4, controlling the open file, g4, rook f7, doubling up on this open e file, rook to f3, and then we have a pin, rook to e1, pinning the rook to the king. So after captures, black has achieved his goal of consolidating and trading off pieces. King to b2, rook to h1, threatening to capture on h3. We have rook to d3. Excuse me, not threatening to capture because of defended, but bringing a potential attacker to the h file, making sure that the rook cannot leave the third rank. Rook to d3, g5, c4, and d captures c4. This is a good move. Again, breaks up the pawns. C4 here is not a good move because after black captures and you capture back, you've created 2 pawn islands versus this 3 pawns that are consolidated. Clearly a winning position for black. At this point, it would be perfectly acceptable to resign, but because it's a tournament and it's a 5+0, white decides to continue on, hoping that black will resign. We have king to g7, king to c3, knight to e4 check, king to d4, threatening to pick up the knight. We have knight to f2, attacking the rook, rook to e3, knight takes h3. Now it cannot, the reason for this move earlier is it cannot be captured back because it's defended. Rook to e7, king to g6, rook takes b7. A good move by white. Something that black missed due to time trouble is that by moving his king to the 7th rank, he gave up this double attack, undermining his pawns and creating pawn islands weaknesses for himself. We have rook to d1 check, king to c5, threatening to pick up the c6 pawn, knight to f2, king captures c6, knight to g4, c5, h5, king to b6, rook to c1. As always, you want to make sure your rooks are behind passed pawns, either your own or the enemy's. Extremely powerful. We have c6, looking just to promote this in desperation. White's trying to promote this pawn, but as you'll see, black is in time to stop it. Knight to e5, c7, knight to d7 check. White captures, and this is a terrible blunder. Easy knight fork to win the game. Knight to c5 check, king to a7, knight takes b7, winning the rook, completely winning now. King captures knight, rook captures pawn, and then we have a series of pawn advancements, and at this point of the game, white resigned as there was ample time for black to queen both his pawns and put white in checkmate. So a very interesting game with a lot of high points. I think taking away from this game, you need to realize that everybody makes mistakes. Everybody blunders, especially in rapid and blitz games. And the person who blunders less is often victorious. And that's really one of the biggest differences between rating ELOs of 200 to 300 is they make less mistakes than you. So if you want to climb and you want to get better and you want to beat stronger opponents, blunder less. So I know it sounds like, oh, well, why doesn't everyone just do that? It takes practice and it takes time, and the more you play and the more you take opportunities like this and play simply and play to consolidate, you'll get better at making fewer mistakes. So I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you all in the next one.